When you remember the reasons for the outbreak of war, you will automatically have logical reasons, such as the conflict over resources, occupation, liberation, or even the pursuit of glory and fame of dead, wounded, and material losses. But when we read history books, we are surprised by many wars, which stood behind the reasons can be described as trivial and stupid. 7th War, authorized Jenkins. The starting point of this war was when Spanish forces arrested the captain of the English merchant ship Captain Jenkins in 1731 and abused and treated him so violently that the Spanish commander cut off Jenkins' ear and told him that the King of England would have the same fate himself, attending the Caribbean, trading in the property of Spain. After the release of Jenkins, he kept his broken ear in a bowl of alcohol and returned to England. He went to King George II to tell him about the harm he had suffered, but the king did not care at first, forcing Jenkins to publish his story in a famous magazine. He continued to tell her as he walked through the cafes with his broken ear. In 1738, he succeeded in presenting his complaint in the British House of Commons. The parliamentarians listened to him with a look of his ear, and Spain was told to apologize for what she had done, but there was no reply. The Parliament therefore pressed the Prime Minister to declare war on Spain. On October 23, 1739, the war, known as the Jenkins War, broke out into a war between two alliances rather than two states. Austria, France and some other countries took part in the war. This makes the specialists look for the real reasons that made two major alliances fight. The fighting ended with the signing of the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle in 1748. 5. The War of the Emo Birds. This war was not between humans, but between humans and animals. In November 1932, the emu birds in Australia were out of control, reaching as many as 20,000 birds, the Australian desert, and destroyed agricultural crops, which called for the Australian Army to send a force of armed soldiers to end their presence. But it was not easy. The birds showed great resilience to the weapons. Although 2,500 birds were killed, most of them succeeded in escaping and bypassing the armed soldiers. After the war continued for a week, the commander of the military force despaired of bird extermination and decided to withdraw. 5th Dog-Eat-Dog War. After the end of the First World War, the relations between Greece and Bulgaria were very tense, and the atmosphere was ripe for a renewal of the war between them again, even for the most trivial reasons. Indeed, on October 22, 1925, when a Greek soldier was chasing his fugitive dog to Bulgaria, and continued the soldier in pursuit of the dog, which led to his death by firing squad by the Bulgarian bird. The incident provoked the Greek forces, which the next day invaded Bulgaria and occupied several villages, was about to bomb the city of Petrograd, but the League of Nations intervened and condemned the attack, and formed an international negotiating committee, succeeded in a ceasefire, after the death of 52 people. 4th Football War. It is much more complicated. The crisis dates back to the early 1960s when the Honduran government decided to ban the acquisition of land by Salvadoran citizens, expel them, cut off diplomatic relations with their state. But the draw for the World Cup in 1970, the two countries gathered in a decisive football match, won by El Salvador and qualified to complete the playoffs, and by the end of the game the two countries have deployed their forces along the border and began the war, violated a military aircraft from Honduras, El Salvador, and firing on a military battalion there, which led to El Salvador's response to the attack. After 5 days of fighting, with Honduran troops in the largest city in El Salvador, international mediation efforts, together with the efforts of a special committee of the Organization of South American States, succeeded in stopping the war. 3rd The War of Pies. The outbreak of the war was caused by a French shop owned by a Frenchman in the city of Mexico City following the riots in 1828, and Mexican officials ignored his complaint, in which he was requested to compensate him for the damage he had suffered, prompting him to seek assistance from the government French. His complaint continued for a long time without any response until King Louis Philippe, angry at Mexico's failure to pay off his loans, demanded that the Mexican king pay 600,000 pesos to compensate the buy owner for his losses, which began in October 1838 and ended in March 1839, after the mediation of the British government and the signing of a peace agreement between the two countries, one of which was to oblige the government of Mexico to pay the great amount of compensation. Second, War of the Aquarius. This war was fought in 1325 in Italy, between two of its independent cities of Modena and Bologna. The first was the attack on the city of Bologna by a contingent of Modena soldiers, the theft of a large wooden bucket and the return to their city. This situation, which lasted for 12 years, ignited the war between the two cities. For a long time, however, Bologna was unable to obtain the Aquarius and is still hanging in the bell tower in Modena. First, the War of Paraguay. Paraguayan President Francisco Solano Lopez was very impressed by the military commander Napoleon Bonaparte and was constantly trying to imitate him in all aspects of his life, so that the most important aspect remained Napoleon's courage and fought many wars. Lopez declared the war in 1864 to the three neighboring countries Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil and Uruguay. The result was catastrophic. It is estimated that 90% of Paraguayan men died during the war, with a total of 400,000 dead on both sides. In the end, there was no solution to stop the fighting, except the assassination of the foolish president in 1870.